Hello and welcome to What's on My Mind with Fiona. I'm your host, Fiona Kane. There's a few things going on in the news and things that I want to talk about today. I've been away for a couple of weeks or been sort of offline for a couple of weeks because I've had a bit of a family emergency I'm dealing with, but we'll get to the other side of that. So I'm back. But my brain's just a little bit foggy because of all the stress I've been through recently. So bear with me. I'm doing my best to make sense today. So first I wanted to actually talk about, so I'm recording this on the 26th of November. And yesterday was the 25th, which actually was my brother's 40th birthday. So happy birthday, Matt. But the other thing, though, yesterday is actually a International Day for the Elimination of Violence against Adult Human Females. And that is a major issue. It says that 1 in 3 women and girls, so I'm getting this from the Women's Forum Australia, 1 in 3 women and girls around the world will experience physical or sexual violence during their lifetime. The issue that I have at the moment. Look, obviously, there's a lot going on with this issue, and there's different layers to it, and there's different issues around it. But essentially, though, if you can't even identify what a woman is, and if women aren't protected, if they don't have sex-based rights, well, you can't protect them, right? So at the very least, women need to exist in law, and they need to have sex-based rights. If they don't have that, what you put in a law to protect them that says, oh, we've got to protect women, we've got to have a safe space or whatever. But if you're going to let a man into that space who just says he feels like he's a woman, right? So we do need to actually have a woman in law as a thing, something that exists, rather than just gender, how you feel, right? So a woman is not how you feel. A woman is who you are. You're born a woman, or you're not, right? Or you're born a female who grows up and becomes a woman, right? So I'm going to put a link into the show notes, but the Women's Forum Australia, they've started a campaign to restore the sex-based rights of women and girls. This is also what you would know that has been going on in the courts as well, with Tickle versus Giggle and Giggle versus Tickle, with Sal Grover trying to get to the right to have a women's app, what was it? It was dating, but it was also just like a social app or whatever, just for women. And she's so far been losing that because we don't exist. Thanks to Julia Gillard, our first Australian female Prime Minister, we don't exist in law, so we can't have sex-based rights. So that's what we're fighting for. So anyway, Women's Forum Australia have got a petition here, and I'm going to put the link in the show notes to please sign this petition. It's really, really important. It says here that sex-based rights of women and girls are under attack across Australia. They are, and across the world. And women are progressively being erased from laws and policies. Men are identifying as women and intruding in female-only spaces, services and sports, while women who challenge this are being punished. So it is really important that we have sex-based rights. And it's not because, like I've talked about this before anyway, but it's not because we think all men are bad or all men are going to hurt women or all men who think that they're trans or whatever are bad and evil and whatever. It's not that at all. But the problem is we do need our own sex-based rights. We do need our own spaces, because there are some men who do mean harm. It's just what it is. And the problem is, you open the door. It's a bit like I've talked about it before, the fox and the hen house. You say, oh, well, this fox isn't a fox anymore. They identify as a hen. And they may be nice and lovely and whatever, but you open the door for one, you open the door for them all, right? So please sign the petition. I think it's really important that we do need to have sex-based rights. Otherwise, we can't. Look, how do you defend women's rights? How do you protect women if you cannot define what a woman is? Comes back to that, right? So that's the first thing. And then there's a few other things in the news that I wanted to talk about. So here we go. There's a new study has come out saying that evidence suggests that puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones are causing testicular cancer. A study in 458 men shows that they are 26.5 times more likely, and that's huge, to develop testicular cancer after long-term treatment with cross-sex hormones or puberty blockers. So I'm just looking here to see just if it says what long-term is. Uh, and so this article, it's a case series called Exploring the Incidence of Testicular Neoplasms, which is cancers, in the transgender population. And it's by Shanko and I don't know, lots of names. And it is in, does it say where the, no, I can't see where it's from. Yeah, okay, but they're just saying, okay, yeah, all right. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure of the detail of this, but essentially, though, 26.5 times more likely to develop testicular cancer. And look, regardless of the study or not, we are seeing that children and young people are being damaged by taking these hormones and things. We forget how powerful these hormones are, and there are many hormone-based cancers, and testicular cancer and um, ovarian and breast cancer are all often hormone-based cancers, right? And so taking hormones, it's always been, we've always had sort of safeguards around that for that reason. It's problematic, right? So just, putting a whole bunch of children on these things and say, oh, but it's perfectly safe. We forget all of the things that hormones do. They're very powerful, and they don't just give you the sort of the sex characteristics. They do a whole lot more than that. So we really need to have an awareness around this. So that's the first thing. Just a moment. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. It looks like it was actually 2 years. 2 years was the time. So they found this when they were actually doing the surgeries, cutting off the testicles of young men who think that they're women, and so gender affirming orchiectomies, which is removal of testicles. That's where they found this really high rate of people who'd been on treatment for 2 years. So 2 years is enough to cause testicular cancer. And so, and you might say, well, hey, it probably doesn't matter if they're cutting off the testicles. Well, it depends on where else it's gone to. Depends on if the person decides they don't want to cut them off, right? But it also depends on if it's doing that, it's not the only problem it's causing, right? So, there's a lot of aspects to that. But essentially, it's not safe to put kids on hormones, or even adults. But at least adults can be consenting, but children can't consent and fully understand this stuff. So, so the other thing that I wanted to talk about, there's a few things here, but one is that I'm really pleased about who Trump is putting together that's going to be supporting him in the White House. I'd be really interested to see what happens with these people. There's a few things, like there's he's saying that they're going to really be come down hard on those transing these kids stuff, right? Which is really good. Adults can do what they like, but they're harming the children. Anyone who wants to stop harming children, I think that's a good thing. And I think they're even talking about going, which would be the thing, going after the doctors doing these things. And I think that's really important because it's kind of what stops this stuff, like the lawsuits and that kind of thing. Because some of these doctors, some of them I think are just really nasty individuals, and some of them really think that they're heroes. They're heroes saving these children from being born in the wrong body, and they're not. They're harming children. So, so I'm really glad that from that point of view, from that perspective, that Trump won the election, and that he seems to be bringing people in around him who are going to be serious about this issue. I also like that. RFKJ is going to be looking at some health issues. Is he perfect about every issue? No, but no one is. But at least he wants to go and have a red hot go at making a change. And I think that the main thing is that you get a nice balance of people in there. So sometimes, some things that are maybe a bit more crazy get pushed back on, and other things that are really, really helpful and useful are allowed to happen. So yeah, I am pleased about the changes that we might be seeing happening in the US, and I hope that that we are involved, that we copy some of that, that we are inspired by that, because we seem to be inspired by what happens in the US, and we're inspired a lot in Australia by all of the things going on there that are problematic. So I hope that we'll be more inspired by things that are, good things that are happening there. So that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. There's a couple of other things here. Sorry, I sort of looking back through and checking my notes and things, because my brain's a bit fried for the last few weeks. Lots have been going on. Uh, I, yeah, all right. And I think I talked about this before, that Germany have gone absolutely crazy, passing laws to enable parents to transition their babies from the moment they are born. The Self-Determination Act to be implemented, was implemented on the 1st of November, has a 10,000, I don't know if it's euros or pounds fine for exposing a transgender person's biological sex, or dead naming them, as in calling Bruce Jenner Bruce instead of Caitlin, right? £10,000 or euro, I think it must be euros, for doing that. That's just disgusting. Anyway, I'll move on from that, because I did talk about that before. Look, what's on my mind? What's on my mind is there's a lot of change happening in the world right now, and I think finally it's some good changes. I think that I feel like a whole lot of energy has changed since Trump won this election, that suddenly people are speaking a little bit freer and saying what they think, and there's more free speech. And look, you vote for who you want to vote for. You believe what you want to. Your politics, it's totally up to you. We all have a right to vote for who we feel is the right person and do what we feel is right. But what I'm happy about is that, there is free speech, right? It's important that we keep free speech, and people should be allowed to say, I support Trump, or I support Biden or Harris or whoever, and that should be okay to do that. And for a long time, it hasn't been okay to say that about Trump. So it's actually good people coming out, and it's kind of funny seeing the dance sort of, the Trump dance move, the YMCA thing, is becoming a bit of a thing. And look, I think it's just, what I'm feeling a sense of hope and hopefulness, and hope for change. And look, time will tell. We will see. But let's hope that a lot of good things, a lot of good changes happen that change the trajectory of the Western world, because the Western world is, based on the stuff going in the UK at the moment, which is absolutely crazy. In the UK, what's happening is they're letting people out of prison who were dangerous criminals, so that they could make space for people who have with thought crimes, right? Or someone who did a tweet or a Facebook post that was a bit nasty or a bit mean or whatever. That's literally what they're doing in the UK at the moment. Tommy Robinson is, it's not his real name, but I think that's what he goes by. He is in prison for 18 months, literally just for telling the truth, right? This is the sort of stuff going on in the UK at the moment, and it's going on in some other European countries, and in Australia, where they just actually defeated. They were trying to bring in some sort of draconian type of a disinformation bill, and it actually lost, which thank goodness for that. In Australia, I was just looking up to see what it was called. I can't remember. Anyway, but that was defeated at this stage. This is happening all over the Western world, and essentially what we're doing is we're bringing there's a whole generation now that children are being brought up, or being maybe not brought up, maybe more like indoctrinated if they go to university anyway, to believe that everything about the West is bad, everything about Australia, UK, whatever is bad. In the US, every white person is evil. We've all done evil, terrible things, and there's nothing good about us. And the truth is that most cultures, if not all, are problematic, have done things that good, bad, ugly, everything in between. And yes, it is okay to acknowledge that and to do something about it and all of the rest of it. However, we just don't we have created a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff has come from the European cultures that come to places like Australia and to the US. And there's a lot of good. And we need to hold on to the good and we need to fix the places where we got wrong, and improve things for everyone, right? And what at the moment it's like everyone, well, not everyone, but there's this movement to destroy all of that, and that's not okay. And so that's why Trump getting in it gives me hope for that reason, because it is about this change and about actually being happy about who we are again as Westerners, and being able to be proud of what we've achieved, but also fixing things and acknowledging things where we've got wrong. It's not about, no one's perfect. No, there's no, US isn't perfect. Australia is not perfect. No one's perfect, but it's simply about being able to be honest about what we've achieved and the good things, and make those good things better, and learn from the mistakes we've made. So I'm just excited. I think that's what the possibility of happening is now. The possibility is that change that we can see, and if Trump's able to do it in the US, I feel like it will move across the world, and maybe we'll all stand up a bit prouder and love our countries again, and love our culture, and make the best of it, rather than, it's really, really weird that we're all going on about how terrible and racist and awful and stuff we all are, but everyone wants to be in our countries, right? And so why do they want to be here if we're so terrible and awful? They want to be here because it is largely a great lifestyle, and people in the Western countries are largely very caring and open and happy for people to do their own thing, within law and all that sort of stuff. So we denigrate this thing that is so great, and then there's people kind of saying how, idolizing and saying how great it is in places where, like Iran and things like that, where, demonizing the wrong people, guys. We have problems, but we're demonizing the wrong people. So I'm excited about it for that reason. But also it's just really, it's been a highlight for me when you see the response from the people on the left who lost and who were devastated. And then fair enough, like people are devastated when they're, elections and stuff, when people don't win. But I heard that there was one, I don't know if this is true, but there was one trans person or trans child who ended their own life. And the rhetoric is just evil, and that's a problem, right? Because in places like when we saw with the election, right, it was like, okay, he's Hitler, he's this, he's that, he's all these awful things, and he is going to just like destroy all trans people and destroy all gay people, and I know he hates all black people. It was all lies. It was just absolutely all lies, right? But this fever pitch trying to fright the hell out of all of these people, and some of the people actually believed it, right? So that person, if that actually did happen and someone has ended their life over this, there's people with all this rhetoric, it's their fault, because Trump's not going to do any of those things. And frightening someone to the point where in a democratic election in places like, I'm not talking about elections in, in places where they've got, like North Korea or whatever, but in democratic Western countries where our elections aren't perfect, but there's still sort of a certain amount of democracy and free and fair elections and that kind of thing, to convince people that their world's going to end, they're going to be somehow killed or stamped out or whatever, over an election, and getting people to the point where they're so terrified and where they're all crying and they're all carrying on and they just can't cope. That is ridiculous. I mean, I've lived for long enough now to have had the team I voted for won, the team I did know that I voted for lost, and I've seen it over and over many, many times. And you survive, right? Certainly in our Western democracies, right? It's fine. You might not like it. You might hate what they do to the economy and hate, but you survive. So over politics, this kind of politics in the Western world, for people who think it's the end of the world, that is ridiculous. And the rhetoric of these people is just awful. And that's a thing. They're telling people that they're perpetual victims. They're telling people, like, we're creating this whole generation of people who believe that everyone hates them, but they're perpetual victims. They can never achieve anything. They can never survive in the world or thrive in the world, when it's the opposite that is actually true. There's never been a better time in the world, in the Western world, for women to do well, and for people of all of different colours and creeds and nationalities to do well, and sexualities and whatever. There's never been a better time for that. There's so much support for people to be themselves and all of that sort of stuff. And about what happened is they came for the kids. They tried to trans the kids and sexualize the children and all of this sort of stuff. And that's what happened is they started to lose support for a lot of their ideas because people are like, okay, once you start messing with the kids, I'm not having a bar of this. So they brought it upon themselves by doing that, like the backlash that they've had. But ultimately, there's never been a better time to be in as like it's going badly now for this reason. But there's so much opportunity in the Western world, and there's so much we can do. And to tell whole generations of people that they are victims and that people are out to get them when it's simply not true. And it's what it is doing though is it's there's people who just make money out of and notoriety, money, and get power from just stirring up this kind of stuff, right? So, and there's lots of, whether it's government departments or non-governmental organizations or charities or whatever, who their whole existence is based on the fact that everyone's oppressed, right? And that's why, like, when finally a lot of the I don't know if you call them charities or what you call them, but people who were supporting gay rights, that sort of stuff, well, they got there, right? So they didn't need to be fighting anymore, not in the Western world. And so then they've all taken up the trans thing, right? So they take up that if they run out of one thing, they jump onto the next thing. So they don't really care about the people they say they're fighting for. It's bigger than that, and there's and a lot of people making money and all the rest of it. So there's an economy for people to be perpetual victims and perpetually outraged and perpetually angry, and I think that we can change that, and I think that we can lead the way and show people that there's opportunity and there's support and there's all of these wonderful things, and they're not. People aren't all terrible victims, and that mentality, and even in situations where it is true, believing that you're a victim and the whole system's against you and you can't achieve anything doesn't help you. Right? Doesn't help you at all. Or believing it and just sitting back and just saying, well, I can't do anything. Believing it and saying, well, there's a lot I can do and I'm just going to get up and going to make it happen. That is the attitude. So anyway, I am actually excited about Trump's win and the changes that could happen, and I hope that he does make some really great changes. He's got some great people there. So let's hope that it goes really, really well. I'm sure he'll get some things wrong and some things right. Everyone does. But I'm really excited about this for the whole Western world, really, because we need a shift. And I feel like this is the first time in a long time I felt there's been a really significant shift. And it's a shift for good, in my opinion. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Again, just respectful, right? You can have a different opinion to me, but just argue just with the concept or with the ideas, not just have a go at me for no reason, because I don't have space for that. Anyway, yeah, I am, for the first time in a long time, I'm kind of excited about the future. I've felt dread for a long time, and I still do in a lot of ways, especially the stuff happening in the UK and some of the stuff that's trying to happen in Australia, although I don't think the Labor government, who are the left in Australia, I don't think they'll win another election because they're doing so badly. Let's just hope that the Liberal government in Australia, who are the Conservatives, are conservative, and if they actually have a campaign similar to Trump from a perspective of policy, they will do really, really well. People are just sick of all of this, like hating on ourselves and making out that harming children and harming women is a good thing. And going back to that first topic where I was talking about women's rights and we're talking about violence against women and that kind of thing, it never ceases to amaze me that the same women or the same people that you see marching for women's rights are often the same people who say, if any man who says he's a woman is a woman and can be in a woman's space, right? And in the UK, I think recently now it is a thing where essentially, that's right. The police are doing, I saw it the other day, the police, if they do a pat down of someone or if they need to do any kind of like internal examination or checks or whatever on a woman, that a man who identifies as a woman can do that. It's perfectly acceptable now, and the woman has to accept that. And that's what, it's like, on one side, it's like we need to protect women, and all these terrible things have happened to women and are happening to women. And when you look at the stats of each week, how many domestic violence, murders and incidences there are, and all that stuff, it's a really serious topic. It matters, and we need to do something about it. But then it's the same people. It's the same people who then say that man is allowed to be in the woman's sport, even if he gives a woman brain damage, accidentally, by hitting the volleyball in her face, or even if he's taking all the women's medals, all the women's privacy in the change rooms, or rubbing up against them in the change rooms, or if he's taking away scholarships and opportunities and all that sort of stuff. So the same people that say that we need to save women and protect women and stop all these awful things from happening are the exact same people who say accept any man who identifies as a woman can go in their space and do what he wants. So anyway, it is important, and I will put in the show notes, I will put the link to the what's it called, petition, so that you can sign the petition to restore sex-based rights for women in Australia. Anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and are you excited about the possible changes that could come in next year with a Trump government? Okay, talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.